75% of agencies mentioned that they already lost work to AI because of that, because it's instant. You can get results instantly if you just go out and talk to something else.
It's like the empty gym membership model, right? The gym wants as many memberships as possible and wants the gym as empty as possible.
Scope creep is the healthiest thing you can do for your agency's growth, or encourage it, because that's where that means people get inspired.
They're not buying hosting as much anymore. They're buying a promise that they're going to be successful. Welcome to Impressive Hosting, a podcast about the role hosting plays in shaping the open web. I'm your host, Jesse Friedman. On this show, we go deeper than uptime and dashboards. We talk about hosting as infrastructure, about ownership, independence, and what it takes to build ethical, high-end WordPress hosting that actually serves creators, businesses, and the internet itself. Before we dive in, head to impressive.host. That's where you can comment on episodes, ask follow-up questions, and help shape future conversations. You'll also find links to follow, like, and subscribe wherever you listen. We are sitting down with Vito Peleg, the founder and CEO of Atarim. We just had a great conversation. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to episode 1. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about the power AI plays in the agency space. We talked about networking and communicating with fellow like-minded folks in the industry and the benefits of that. We talked about Vito's past and how he was building GeoCity websites while he was rocking out in London, and how that helped him to build a small agency that grew and grew, and then he eventually built Atarim, which is an agency empowerment tool to help them speed up their work and working with their clients and giving them a leg up with AI. Vito, you put AI into WordPress in 2020. That was might as well have been 50 years ago, right, with the speed at which AI is moving. But you have something cool coming out, right? You have a new set of AI features inside of Atarim that are going to help agencies. I'm curious, can we talk about that? Is it too early?
Well, it's coming either now, by the time this is going live, or in a few days from watching this. So this is definitely a good time to talk about this. This has been we launched AI in Atarim about a year ago, and so it's not something new that we're completely introducing, but the vision of it is now coming to fruition with version 5 of Atarim. That is what we're talking about.
That's great. And so the way you described it is that it's is it correct in saying that it's an agency in your admin?
Not so much. Actually, we have a pretty big principle of taking the user out of the admin, out of the WP admin, for example, and especially the client, get them out of there, because that's not where they want to live. The agency acts as an abstraction layer for the WP admin for the past 15 years, in the eyes of the clients. So we're leaning into that reality, and we spoke about this in the previous episode. I'm not doing anything new. All I'm doing is digitizing human experiences and observing how people act in the real world. But we call it the AI moat for web agencies. And the reason why we call it like this is because there's the 3 pillars that align with the current reality of how clients interact with AI and how agencies should leverage AI for their own abilities. 3 pillars is self-serving clients, proactive agency, and automatic upsells. And so if we break down each one of them, the reality, Jesse, of the 3-day SLAs, the 72-hour SLAs, where clients ask you to change something on the website, and if they're lucky, you can do it right now, but maybe not. Maybe it's the weekend, and maybe you're busy with another project, or maybe the email is just the 10th email that wasn't opened yet. That reality is gone. We all expect things right now, on demand, and it's not only through AI. People used to watch TV. Look what happened, right? This is not the reality anymore. Everything that we want is at our fingertips, like that. And then changing the phone number on my website, or publishing a new blog post, or adding a new portfolio item, or updating this product, all of these kind of stuff no go. We can't live in this reality where we expect clients to wait on us and still pay premium. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to align the client with their expectation, which is to self-serve on the small bits and pieces while providing the agency the guardrails to make sure that things don't go sideways, that there's always traces, that there's always a way to revert back any rogue changes. And then, of course, act as the escalation layer for those requests. And on this component, on the reactive side, you might see already some solutions like this being promoted out there, whether it's GoDaddy's Arrow or Hostinger's Cody or Elementor's Angie, which are just the reactive side, right? You can go in, make a request, and the AI will do its best to perform that change for you. It's pretty much that, but all of these elements lack the escalation layer. And so imagine, and I'm sure that you guys have AI support to some degree in WP Cloud or through the automatic portfolio, and even there, you wouldn't let it be the only layer. You would have the humans that are there to tackle in the beginning 80% of the work, and 20% is done by AI. And now 80% is done by AI, 20% is done by the human. And so we look at it in this exact same path. This is number one, the proactive, allow clients to self-serve because that's what they're after. But then at the same time, I cited that 75% of agencies mentioned that they already lost work to AI because of that, because it's instant. You can get results instantly if you just go out and talk to something else. And so don't lose your clients to AI. Give them something before they look for anything, So that's number one. Number two is the proactive agency. And this is a fundamental mindset shift that, Jesse, I'm sure you'd agree that the successful agencies have already figured out. And the way I see this, there's two types of agencies in this world, right? If I'm boiling it down to the basics, you have the normal agency and the good agency, right? The normal agency is reactive by nature. You are the client might pay you $100, $250 even sometimes for the right to reach out to you. And if they do, then 48 hours, 72 hours SLAs, and all of those kind of things. So the normal agency is the reactive one, is the one that you pay them $50, $100, $200 a month, and if you're lucky, they'll be there when you need them, or they might be busy with some other piece of work, or they're on a holiday, or any of these kind of weird scenarios. That's one. And then you have the good agencies. These are the proactive ones, the ones that act as an advisor that would reach out to you every month and get on a call. So then you have the proactive agencies, and these are the ones that would get on a call with you every month, and they would ask you, how is business going? What's your goals for the year? Let's build a strategy so we can do something every month. How about we do this? How about we do that? We found that there was a problem, so we fixed it, and it's already done. There's nothing for you to do. These are the ones that get the referrals. These are the ones that grow organically without any resistance from the market. And because for the former, the reactive side, the yes man, if you will, there is a complete breakdown in the value chain between what the client perceives and what the agency provides. If you talk to these agencies, they will call their care plans insurance. The client is paying for insurance. But when you ask the client, they're paying a tax. And so there is a complete disconnect between what value means in the eyes of a client compared to the agency. And some of these folks, and including myself back in the day before I realized it, when you have a client that is paying for 2 hours of your time per month and hasn't reached out to you in 2 months, amazing. I made money. I didn't have to do anything, that's wrong. It's
like the empty gym membership model, right? The
right.
Gym wants as many memberships as possible and wants the gym as empty as possible.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is exactly the same type of mindset. And so the second part is making every agency proactive. And this is through autonomous workflows that run in the background and perform work for you, kind of like OpenClaw. that we've always had workflows and systems like this inside Atarim now, but they were just about moving work between people to people to people to people. And now they can actually perform the whole cycle. So, we're here talking a lot about WordPress and the open web. Who likes updating plugins and check if this is actually, if it worked or it didn't work, and revert back and check the security, and this is on and this is off. No one wants to do that, right? No one wants to deal with a downtime situation and figure that one out, or a hacked website, or even at my agency we had what we call the Friday emails. Every Friday, we would spend 4 hours. Every team member or every project manager or person that is in charge of projects would be writing down to their clients, to the active clients, here's what we did, here's what we're going to do next, and here's what we need from you, right? Took 4 hours every Friday, but it's so worth it. Even if they didn't look at it, they knew that we were on their side. And so that increased the level of trust and reduced the level of micromanagement by the client. When they know that you are on it, you can actually lead the relationship rather than be the outcome of it. And so that's the second pillar, moving people from being the yes man to being the trusted advisor, from being reactive to being proactive without actually doing the work, but just deciding which workflows you want to run autonomously for your work, for your clients. And imagine, Jesse, that the AI does a 30-day check-in after a client just joined, looking at all the work, looking at the communications, looking what they actually, or where the project stands now, sends them a report of what was already done and where are we going to next, and based on project stages and all the features that we already have inside Atarim. And the third one is the upsell machine, as I call it. And the upsell machine is the concept that when you have that the AI will never be able to do everything. So anything that the AI can't do, or that it's too risky to do, or that is within your shtick, is gonna be surfaced up to you. So you can define, for example, let's say I'm really good at SEO, so I don't want any AI slop blog post on my client's website. No. I want to vet all of this kind of stuff, and please surface all of these requests and all of these pieces of work over to me for approval before they get launched. But on the other hand, I'm pretty bad at design, so yeah, please do whatever you can to make sure the design looks good. On the flip side, I might be a designer, and then it's like, no way I'm going to put this AI slop on my client's website as designs. I want every design to come back to me, and I want to vet this. But on the other end, yeah, actually writing a blog post every week for my clients, for each one of my clients, within their niche, within their audience and their tone of voice, sounds amazing. Please do that, right? So you have those ability to set the guardrails in natural language. You just tell it what is it, the things that you enjoy doing, so it brings it up to you. But not only that, every time that these opportunities are surfaced to you, they get quoted by the AI, and they're coming to you as an upsell opportunity. And that's how we really built our agency back in the day. Every scope creep is an opportunity for revenue. And that's another disconnect, and I've been preaching that for years on stages, that scope creep is the healthiest thing you can do for your agency's growth, or encourage it, because that's where that means people get inspired. That means that they are on it, that they're with you.
Frankly, scope creep comes from the fact that they're excited about the project enough to say, okay, I want to add that, or I wanted to do it that way, or and then we're constantly saying to them, well, that's not within the scope of the project. It's not what you paid for. Well, maybe there's a way to edge that in, and maybe AI can help with that. Yes. I really like the analogies that you're using. And one of the things that I keep going back to is the medical industry, at least here in the States. My mom was a nurse growing up, and I spent a lot of time in hospitals because I was born with arthritic knees. I was born with 80-year-old knees. And so I was in hospitals all the time. But you know what I noticed is that a patient comes in, and you're attending the chief doctor in the room, right? Doesn't see the patient right away. What they typically do is have an intern or a resident, someone who's lower, more junior. They do an H&P, which is a history and a physical, right? And they ask all these questions, and they review everything, and then they create a diagnosis that they think that's what it is. They might order X-rays. They might do all these things in preparation
Right.
for presenting to their attending, right?
Yeah.
And then the attending is the person who says, okay, I'm going to go meet with the patient. I'm going to make sure that this student didn't screw things up. I'm going to make sure that I read the x-ray and get it all done. And I'm going to say, okay, you are diagnosed with this, and now I'm prescribing these meds or this medical treatment or whatever. I think this is so similar to the way in which we're starting to operate within AI, right? Like the client comes to the agency and says, I want a new portfolio item. I took, this video. I created this commercial for my client and I want it on my portfolio, right? And as you said, typically what that would mean is, okay, I'm going to have to get into the queue. I'm going to have to pay this agency. I'm going to have to wait till they have time for me. I'm going to have to learn this myself, but I want to go create commercials. I don't want to have to learn how to do this, right? And all that stuff. And so what you're saying is that your tools make it possible for a client to say, this is what I want, an AI to kind of get you most of the way there. They're ordering the x-rays, they're ordering the blood tests, they're making the diagnosis, they're getting you most of the way there, but there's still that human who's going to apply their talent and their abilities to make sure that it was done correctly, that it was done in a way that serves the rest of the website. They're thinking holistically about the rest of the project and the vision for the website, and then they sign off on it and they hit go. And in that way, you're blending the need for AI to makes the agency faster, but you're also giving that agency something real to charge for, and not just handing it off to an AI and just saying like, hey, we're just reusing something that you could go ask to do it for you. We're actually applying our value. I actually gave an interview or held a fireside chat at the Automatic Dev AI event in New York last month. And I interviewed Hillary Mason, who runs Hidden Door. And she's been at the forefront of AI for over a decade. And what she talked about was taste, this idea that your best skill set is knowing what you're best at, right? And so if I'm a web designer, I apply my taste to what an AI creates. And so it's not that the AI is replacing me, it's that the AI is operating as like a junior designer, and I'm still in charge of approving those things and applying my taste and my talent, my high standards and all that stuff. They're just accelerating the grunt work that I really typically don't care about too much anyway.
Right.
It sound like,
Yeah, and this is exactly the mindset. We call I call it like the POV. All we have is our POV, and our point of view dictates how we act and how we interact with the world and how we make things. That's what makes art. It's the POV.
Right.
And so I totally on the same page there.
Yeah.
Taste is can also be replicated, and people have been talking about taste being the differentiation for let's say up until a year ago, for the past 3-4 years with AI, that like AI will never have taste, it will never have taste. And then you now have design.md files that are like, okay, this has a pretty good taste, maybe not mine, but it has taste, and so I think that has also been consumed by it. But the decision, the point of view, that is where we shine, and it will get to a place very, 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 very soon where you don't even have the quirks of it. You don't have the black on black kind of black text on black background kind of hallucinations that sometimes happen because the design system was not properly set up, or this button has this border radius and that button has this border radius. This is getting removed in front of our eyes as we speak through through agentic capabilities and through the loops that these agents are doing to recheck their work at different levels of fidelity and dimensions and so on. But the point of view is the thing, and I would add one more thing to it, which is the relationship. And this is what we discussed, what we started talking about at the beginning of the first episode, that in today's reality, relationships is where it's at. And while AI can do a lot of the work, having someone that you trust that is gonna be at your side if things go sideways, or that is ahead of you, even by a little bit, to guide you into the next step, still has a lot of value. To this, I remember that when I started teaching guitar when I was 15, right? And I only played guitar for 1 year, and then I started teaching guitar. And it's not because I was amazing; it's because I was teaching 9 years old.
Yeah. Right.
And that's always that kind of game of the professional in any field lives and breathes their own space. Wherever they go online, they get served the content that is relevant to this industry, while your clients will not. And so your point of view and the relationship that you form with them is the way to create stickiness in all businesses.
Yeah. One of the things that you touched on earlier that I want to circle back to is that you mentioned that agencies don't want to deal with downtime. They don't want to deal with security issues. They don't want to deal with hacks and things like that. And I would be remiss if I didn't circle back to the way in which we approach hosting and the way in which people buy hosting. One of the things that I continue to talk about with WP Cloud, and the reason why I push WP Cloud with hosting companies, especially ones who are like, well, our IP is our infrastructure. We're a host. That's what we're selling. But the reality of the situation, I think, and it's becoming more and more prevalent even throughout agencies, not just the people who are doing it themselves, is that they're not buying hosting as much anymore. They're buying a promise that they're going to be successful, that they're going to have 100% uptime, that they're going to have secure sites, but they're not analyzing the infrastructure itself. And this is where I think WP Cloud actually has a unique opportunity to help hosting companies, because we are setting the gold standard with higher fully managed WordPress hosting. Our partners like Pressable and Bluehost's agency program are offering 100% uptime. They're not even getting into nines. And the reason for that is because you can make that promise on this platform, but also because the user or the agency cares less about the actual boxes that they're on and who's actually serving the files, and more about that promise. And so, I'm starting to think about this from that perspective as well. These clients who are interacting with these agencies and using AI tools and things like that. I would imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that a client who's saying, hey, I want to put this portfolio item up, they're going to care less about who does the grunt work and more about the outcome. And they're going to care more about whether or not it was done efficiently, quickly, cheaply, probably. They care about, saving money, and whether or not it, like, over time, it's causing problems. These are same like relational things that agencies care about with hosting, is the quality of it, whether it's up, whether it's fast, whether they can afford it for their client. I think the clients are going to care the same way about this with AI. They're going to care less about whether or not the AI is actually doing it, and just more about whether or not that agency is providing them with the value that they're expecting to get from that money. And I think a lot of that goes back to faith. The thing that I keep going back to is the same issues that customers have with setting out to build their own website. Is it going to pay off? All this time that I learn, I spend learning how to build a WordPress website, that I learn about design, that I learn about web design, all these things, that skills that maybe I don't even care about. Will I have this finished product at the end? And if their faith is low, if they don't think they're going to accomplish that goal, they're less likely to succeed. I think it goes the same way. Like, if the agency is building that relationship with them and strengthening that relationship so that they have faith in them, that no matter what, it's going to have that higher level of quality. It's going to, reflect what they're paying for and the value that they're getting. They're going to care far less about who's actually doing the little intricate pieces, and more about just who's signing the chart, as we said, like at the end.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that is the example of the DIYer trying to build a website is a perfect example for this, because Jesse, as an industry, we've been promising business owners one-click websites for the past 20 years.
Right.
I haven't seen one yet, and so but that they have this belief, So when you go into a Wix or into through a host, into a website builder, you believe that you can. But we also know, because we survey, and there's actually a famous stat by Wix, because they're a public company. They share a lot of these stats publicly. 82% of people that start building a website with Wix never finish. 82%, in fact.
Yeah.
And in the hosting space, it's not that far off, like we're talking 50 to 80% through DIY tools. And sometimes we feel threat from the DIY solutions over to our professional side or professional services side. But in fact, I'll give another stat from Web Pros that did a market survey around this and found that DIY within our market is only 4.8% of the market. And more than 95% of the market is professional services, is those people that are going in and that are building. But at the same time, the barrier to entry has been reduced with AI in the same way that it has for us back in the day when WordPress came in and then website builders came in. We saw a million builders joining our industry, and that's not something that happened before that. Maybe before you had a few webmasters here and there, but you didn't see this influx of flow of new professionals before it became easier to build. And now when it's even easier to build, I think there's going to be at least 1 million professionals that are coming in. Nowadays we call them the vibe coders, right? This is the new way.
Yeah.
And they are us from 15 years ago, just in this revolution that comes in. And so I don't think that it's going to die off, but it's all about that relationship, the trust that you build with your client, while aligning your own business model with and your own delivery with the expectations of the market, which is instant. Everything should be instant by default. It could take longer if it's more difficult, but the default is instant.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think, also when we think about hosting companies, and you mentioned earlier too, that 30-day check-in, right? You're keeping those customers engaged, and you're helping them to feel like they're actually interacting with something that's helping them achieve their goals. One of the things that we talk about with hosting companies all the time is that you should align yourself with the success of your customer, right? So that you're not necessarily just focused on charging them for ancillary things or charging for like little things like SSL certificates and things like that. Instead, you should be focused on how do you make sure that they're growing and you're growing as well. And so it makes me think like, you're building these tools for agencies to be accelerating their level of work and to do more with clients. But what should hosting companies be thinking about? Because one, Atarim is something that is starting to be bundled with hosting companies and making it available. But also, I like the idea of this 30-day check-in, because one of the things that we see a lot of times with hosting companies, you mentioned DIYers make up a smaller percentage, but those people still need that extra handholding. They need that support. They need that level of love and care, right? And so maybe hosting companies should be implementing something like that too. Like I like the idea of like an AI check-in, something along the lines of like, something that can actually relate to you, something that can listen to what it is that you're saying. And maybe it doesn't necessarily have to solve all the problems. Maybe it doesn't have to have, just a chat blob where people can detect that it's AI and they don't want to have a inhuman conversation. But maybe it is something as simple as like, it's a 30-day check-in. Tell us how things are going. What are you struggling with? What do you need help with? And be transparent. I'm an AI. I'm not going to try and solve your problems right here, right now, but I do want to hear what you're dealing with, how it's going, and I'm going to bring it to a human, and we're going to, help you be successful. And I think that layer of transparency can go a long way in helping people who feel vulnerable in those moments, but while also creating a check-in. I think hosting companies need to do a lot more with that. I think every hosting company right now is hyper-focused on how do we build a site builder? How do we use AI to get them live faster? How do we reduce time to live? How do we reduce churn? How do we bring them on and help them get up and going? But I haven't seen a whole lot of this. How do we help them sustain that success? How do we keep them going? How do we make them feel like we're listening? That might be actually a really great way to implement that. Anyway, so tell us about how Atarim is working with hosting companies.
Right. So very similar to what you're describing. And there's, if you go back to the beginning of hosting, when there were no agencies, and there were just a handful of webmasters, or even pre that, the host was doing the professional services. They were the ones that were offering the website builds and writing the HTML and PHP and all of the kind of stuff in the early days, until they realized that selling hosting is way easier because it's software It's scalable, it's repeatable, and it has all the three pillars or the three benefits of software, where it's unlimited scale, high margins, and low to no touch, right? And so they pivoted and basically dropped this model and allows for the rise of the web agencies in our ecosystem, because people still needed to get served, and not everyone wants to spend 100 hours figuring out how to build their first website, this first small business website. But at the same time, it's coming back. And so Atarim already over the past few years, we've been powering what is called DFM operations, do it for me operations. That is basically the way to fix the leaky bucket of DIY. So every time someone can't figure it out on their own, how about you pay $1,000 or $2,000 and we'll just do it for you, kind of thing, right? And we're serving some of the largest hosting companies in the world that have been doing this for quite a while. And we came in with the software and cut the delivery time in half. But even more than that, I'm going to continue on the flow of sharing stats here. So because I hear that people like it. There was a report last week by Cloud Linux and Web Pros. Maybe you saw that, the hosting industry, hosting market survey. And one of the interesting points that I found from there is that 50% of web hosting are looking into professional services as a way of reducing or increasing activation, reducing churn, and increasing ARPU dramatically. ARPU is average revenue per user. And the reason for this is because we are now in this extremely special time, Jesse, where you have Sequoia was talking about this, the concept of 1 to 6. Every dollar spent on software, if someone is clicking the buttons of the software, it's worth $6, right? And so there's direct correlation of 1 to 6 from DIY to professional services that they kind of cited, which is true if we think about care plans as an example, or a lot of the work that we do as professionals. It's also a nice way of pricing things, if you know that. It's a nice little hack. But it also means 6x ARPU on commoditized hosting plans, right? The $5, $10 hosting plans. How do we get them to 80? There's no way apart from providing services. Now, why is this a special time? It's because services are starting to act like software. As I mentioned, it has unlimited scale. We just talked extensively about that gift of unlimited scale that we're trying to give as a mission to our agencies. It has unlimited scales. It has high margins because the 6x is not directly correlated to payroll anymore. And it's low to no touch, which is exactly what AI allows us to do. And so that brings back the flow of hosting brands looking back into, okay, professional services sounds exactly within our niche. We're already selling the domain. We're already selling the infrastructure. We're already selling the website builder. Why not just do it? And, give the client what they want, which is only two things: more traffic, more sales, right? That's it.
No, that's a great way to sum it up. It's funny because I think that we all come from the WordPress space. And so it's very grounded in open source, this idea that we're going to give back. We're going to write code and we're going to help provide services so that people can get a voice online and they can share whatever it is or sell whatever we want to empower people. And I think there's this mentality that people feel like there's something wrong with charging for open source software. Right. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Right. But I also think that kind of bleeds into this idea that because it's open source software and because I can make it for free, that people will want to just use it for free. And the reality of the situation is that you can make your customer experience, your user experience for your product significantly better when you can actually invest in it. And the way in which you invest in it is to make money. We are, a commercial enterprise, right? We live in an economy that requires us to make some money. The thing that I think that a lot of people,
it's a healthy thing.
No, right. Unless we're going to become like a post Star Trek, no money utopia, which maybe, I don't know, AI is leading that way. Who knows? Until then, you need to make money. You need to keep the lights on. You need to keep things going. You need to reinvest back into R&D and do all these things to keep things going really, really well. And the thing that I keep going back to is that, all these people who are building the software and doing this stuff for open source, the thing that they tend to forget is that the people who are asking for you to do it for me are the people who are more focused on, getting a gig for their band, or producing the new widget, or selling, cupcakes in their bakery, or coming out, trying out new hair colors for things. And that's where they, for the hair salon, right? That's where they want to focus their time and their passion and everything else. And, sometimes it's like, whether it's $5 for a service, or it's $20 a month for a thing, or it's $500 and I don't have to learn how to configure it. People forget that, like, you're giving them an opportunity by putting a price tag on that thing to say, hey, I value your product. I just don't want to set it up. Or I value your hosting. I just don't want to build a website. Right. Give me an opportunity here to spend a little money. And, I think we often think about these customers as if, like, they have no money to spend at all in any way. And I think the reason for that is because we have this race to the bottom on hosting and on pricing, right? Because we end up charging $2 a month for hosting. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, now the website itself is going to cost me $1,000 or $500. And then they want $50 a month on top of that to manage it. And I think that's where things get really complicated, because we're basically saying, like, hey, we're selling the car or access to the street for pennies. And then all of a sudden now you have to buy a car to ride on the street, and you have to service the car and all these other things. And it's like, but all I wanted to do was just walk down the street or whatever. And now you're trying to upsell me this. That's not the way in which people think. They're just trying to get a website live. And so, yes, they're going to go choose hosting because that's the first step most of the time. Or maybe they go hire an agency. But when they figure out that this is complicated and this is tough, it's not that it needs to be so easy for them that they can do it in 2 minutes. It needs to be easy enough that they can actually learn it and have faith, like we talked about earlier, or just give them a way to shortcut it. And the best way to shortcut it is sometimes is like a few bucks. Like, just let them, and be proud of that. Don't hide it. Don't sweep it under the rug. Don't be like, ashamed of asking for money. It's the way in which you keep the lights on. It's the way in which you invest back in your product, and you actually help them to be more successful faster.
Yeah.
So anyways,
I look at this also from a perspective of, I'm not the highest earner in my company and never been, my team members make more than me. I will win in the long run. That's my perception of this. So I look at this. So the way that I see this, I'm building families, every revenue that is generated is powering someone at next meal and the next house that they will buy. And I'm very proud when I see my team members that are able to accomplish these milestones in their life, and that I am a small part of it, and of course the clients are the ones that are at the end of the day financing this, because we were able to exchange value for value. And that's the whole thing,
Right.
So there is no such thing as too expensive. It's just, who is it worth that? To who is this worth?
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. You're helping to democratize livelihoods. You're helping to make people more successful. That's amazing. All right. So we're way over time, but I do have one last question, because I heard you say it earlier, and I just want to touch on this one thing before we go. You think that 2027 is going to be the year of the agency. Sum that up for me. Tell me what we should be looking forward to.
Okay. Well, I think it's the year of the agents. Whether the agency will...
The year of the agents.
Whether the agency is gonna start leveraging this opportunity, which is insane. Jesse, it's the holy grail for website agencies to gain the gift of unlimited scale. The only reason why agencies hit the glass ceiling at around a million mark, or 15 people, 15 to 20 team members, that everyone knows about this glass ceiling, is because that's where profit starts slipping. That's when process starts slipping, when standards starts decreasing. And this is because a lot of times the way that agencies are structured, they are structured around the technician. You have the professional who knows the thing, and then you try and bring people to support your core skill set. And it's a lot easier with AI. If you know your POV, which is what the core of agencies of the agency model is all about, you have that person that has that figured it out in some kind of way. And if you can just replicate that, even at the 80% with the Andy Warhol example, and just give the 10% to 100 clients instead of the 3 that you could have served without it. I think that this is the magic, and I'm even foreseeing in the next couple of years, I call it the rise of the mega agencies, where you might see HubSpot-sized agencies because it acts like software. So why not have an agency that is focused around real estate, and one that is focused around lawyers and accountants and nonprofits like we did, but then not serve the 60 nonprofits that we served with a team of 20 people, but serve 60,000, 600,000, 6 million, all from the same point of view of the person that knows what they should do. And so very exciting for the ones that are going to lean in. Maybe not everyone wants to build the next HubSpot, but even if we're bringing it down to the smaller perspective, what if you can just take a holiday without anything going on fire?
What a novel idea, huh? To be able to take some time off.
And so that's like the other side, but it works in either way. The 27 is where we all need to figure out our place compared to this new organism, essentially, that is here already, which is AI.
Yeah, that's great. Vito, thank you so much for being on the show. It was an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to have you on again. Your colleague, the legend Andrew Palmer, is going to be very upset, I think, that you got in before him, because we were scheduled to meet, and then I got sick coming back from WordCamp Europe and WordCamp Asia, and so he's very, very upset with me. So you make sure that he knows that he's welcome on the show. I can't wait to have him on, and we'll keep talking about Atarim from a different angle, I'm sure. And we'll have you on again soon. I can't wait to see what you guys do next. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me, Jesse.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Impressive Hosting, where we uncover the core tenets of great WordPress hosting. Do you have a follow-up question for today's guest, thought or comment on anything we talked about, a future guest suggestion, a hosting horror story? What do you think makes great WordPress hosting? All your comments shape this show. Drop them on impressive.host. We also appreciate you following us on social media and subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. Finally, do check out our list of open source projects that need support at impressive.host. Whether it's code, community, or cache, you can make a difference. See you next time.